of the W Factor podcast, where myself and Luke will cover the week of wrestling, starting on Monday Night Raw and working our way all the way through to Friday Night SmackDown, and if possible we will cover pay-per-views. Now, unfortunately, just before anyone gets ahead of themselves, I have not seen Full Gear in its entirety. However, Luke has watched it, so if we have anything to cover at the end of the show, the Full Gear breakdown will come from Luke. We'll probably just go through the matches and results then, just so that everyone who hasn't seen it is aware. Now, if you do not want the spoilers of the match, just feel free to tune out. I'll give you a warning once we get to that point. But we will start on Monday Night Raw, where Randy Orton opens the show. Randy Orton cuts a promo on how he is the best. He's better than Edge, better than Undertaker, better than Drew McIntyre. He is the champ because he is the best. He asks for anyone to come out and face him, which I thought was a wee bit odd, seeing as they're clearly building towards some sort of Fiend, Drew McIntyre triple threat. Maybe not, but for him just to basically come out and say, if anybody wants a shot, come out and get it. Thought that was a bit odd, but
it's just fill-in time.
Yeah, which seems to be all they do. Wait till we get to SmackDown. That's all fill-in time, for God's sake.
Yeah.
SmackDown is probably my least favourite thing to review. It used to be Raw, because SmackDown used to be a little bit interesting, whereas now, oh God, we'll get there. So, where was it? Alexa Bliss answers the challenge.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Obviously, WWE aren't going to do a mixed match there and then, but genuinely for a split second, I just wanted to see Alexa Bliss get in the ring and go toe to toe with Randy Orton.
Yeah, punt kick.
And I'll get punt kicked and then have the Fiend come out or something. So Alexa Bliss comes out. They have a bit of back and forth verbally. Before the arena goes dark, the lights come back on and Bliss has disappeared, but McIntyre has taken her place, dishes out a nice looking Claymore kick. Always a good Claymore kick for Drew. I think the only ones I don't like are the ones where the contact is very clearly not there, and he almost does it with both legs because he always lands in his back.
Yeah.
But his WrestleMania against Brock Lesnar, right? It was obviously we watched that together. The match itself was maybe 2.5 minutes long,
and it was it was only two moves,
but every Claymore kick he did was spot on. Brock Lesnar can take a move.
It doesn't even look that dangerous of a move as well.
No,
it's just like kicking someone. So why wouldn't you put the contact in? You know what I mean?
It depends who you're going up against. Like Drew is very well, I don't know about nowadays, but Drew used to be very famous in the Scottish wrestling scene for actually hitting people, because he was obviously, when Drew was with ICW, which is specifically an 18+ show, he does not want to disappoint adults.
Yeah. Who
will see him not punching, whereas a child will miss it because a child will be all in there for the character, whereas drunk 18-year-olds and older want to see violence.
Yeah.
So Drew will get in a ring, he'll put you in the collar elbow tie up and he'll whisper in your ear, "I'm going to hit you," but it's for the crowd, and he would just go for it. So I don't think Drew's got any issues with hitting people, but now that he's in the big league, WWE, if your opponent says, "Don't hit me," or "Don't hit me too hard," or whatever, obviously you don't really want to be doing your old strong style stuff. Shinsuke had a lot of trouble actually when Shinsuke first came to NXT. When he first started out, there was a lot of backstage talk that nobody really wanted to work with Shinsuke unless they were getting a pay rise because he was going to kick the shit out of them. Which is what you do in Japan. That's just what happens. So McIntyre vows to make Orton's life a living hell. Miz tries to cash in on Orton as he's lying there lifeless after taking that, as I said, nice Claymore kick. But Drew stops them.
Yeah, that would have been very underwhelming.
That would have, honestly, I would have rather, if that's how they were going to cash it in, I would have rather that was Otis. But before the cash in becomes official, Drew basically chases them away like teenagers, like an old man, "Get off my lawn," sort of thing. So, but the cash in is still valid. The cash in is not valid. Do apologise.
There's so many people involved with this story.
Yeah. And I'm still not sure where they want to go with it, Because if they're going to do... The thing is, right, so I think it was last week we discussed how it's getting to a stage where there's certain players in the title scene, there's certain players in the company that have all built up quite enough attention to the point where they are now recycling old feuds.
Yeah.
So the Fiend, Bray Wyatt being the Fiend is going to feud with Randy Orton, but the Miz is also going to feud with Randy Orton because of the whole 2010 cash in and win, and then you've got Drew, who's currently in the feud because it is his belt. It was his belt, and he wants it back. So there's like 3 people for 3 different reasons that are all feuding with Randy Orton, and I just think your audience are going to struggle to focus on one storyline. No, sorry, your audience are going to struggle to focus on 3 storylines. Give them one, but give them hints at other storylines. Give them one main focal point.
Yeah, we've all had issues with Randy in the past and we're not over it.
Yeah.
Let's work together.
Something
We
like
say
that. Yeah.
But like
the
the
Fiend
Miz doesn't
and-
seem to be working with the Fiend and all that.
The Fiend and Drew McIntyre have got some sort of collaboration. I think you might have been spot on last week by saying that it's like the face has been brainwashed or like poisoned by this demonic heel. I think that might be where they're going with it, because at no point have we ever had Drew and the Fiend anywhere near each other relating to wrestling. We might have had a moment where they were both in the arena at the same time, but we've never had a moment where they've been able to come to some sort of arrangement sort of thing. Whereas now, as I said, Alexa Bliss gets in the ring to answer the challenge that Randy Orton dished out, the lights go off, and then when they come back on, you would expect the Fiend, but instead you get Drew. So there's definitely something going on.
It would be an interesting storyline, but again, it's just all about the execution of it, and it's like, if you're going for it, he's being mind controlled and all that. How does he get out of it?
Exactly.
He doesn't really. Does he have someone in the business right now in WWE that could mean something to him, or
Maybe if they brought back Jinder Mahal.
is he not in the company anymore?
He is in the company, but he's been out on injury for about a year, and apparently he's still got another 6 months until he's recovered. I don't know if I want this storyline dragged out for another 6 months before Jinder can come back, but the only person he has any sort of friendship with was either going to be Heath Slater, who's now who has unofficially signed with TNA. There was a whole story this week where he didn't get to sign his actual contract because of a joke thing, but we'll get there. But yes, so it would have been Heath, but now that he's in Impact, it can only be Jinder. But Jinder being out on injury for another 6 months, are they going to have... And when Jinder came back, he was an absolute villain.
Yeah.
He came back a complete bad guy. He won the title, he held on to it, he cheated, he had help and stuff like that. So I don't think he's the same Jinder from 3-man band days. He's not a joke character anymore. Or he's not supposed to be a joke character. Some people still took him as a joke, but that's just unfortunate, really. That's just unfortunate.
Yeah, it's just if they go in that direction, it's hard to see a way out, because Randy doesn't have anyone to support him.
No, Randy's pretty much on his own. No, he's not really teamed up with anyone, because everyone that he had connections with, he's punt kicked or beat up, or put into the hospital with an injury, so Edge, Christian, Big Show, Ric Flair. Actually, hold on. The only other people he has connections with would be Batista, who I don't see coming back, and Triple H, who's not made a television appearance since the season premiere of Raw a couple of weeks back, and he never actually encountered. They never passed each other, but
it's just the story's feeling very linear, I should say. I don't know, because there's just so many people against one guy, and it's hard to put in the whole Drew being... this is pure conjecture.
Yeah,
but
obviously.
This might not happen, but it's just it's a direction to go in.
It's something to do, exactly. It's
I don't know, it's weird. It was weird him winning the title in the first place.
Yeah, it was weird putting him in the title scene because, I mean, obviously Dolph had his time. There was no going back for Dolph. That was it. But to go from Dolph straight to Randy, who was fresh off a feud with Edge, that was a whole emotional roller coaster for people. And then all of a sudden, boom, title shot.
Yeah.
There's got to be other people on the Raw roster, especially now after the draft is done. There's got to be some people there who you just feel, actually, do you know what? You're not too bad. The fans like you. Why don't we slowly but surely put you into the title scene?
Why don't we slowly but surely turn you into Dominic, because no one likes Dominic?
Oh yeah, Raw lost Dominic. We need to get someone new. We need to get another Dominic in here. So we have a guitar on a pole match. Now I've written down in my notes here that Vince Russo has an orgasm in the distance after hearing that that's what the match was going to be. If anyone is unfamiliar, Vince Russo had this weird fascination with some sort of object on a pole match. He loved it no matter what it was. Pretty sure TNA and Scotland's own Grado had a bum bag on a pole match. And it was also a hardcore match, so within the bum bag there was, well, they were acting as if it was thumbtacks, but in actual fact it was what do you call it? I think it was like Skittles or something like that, but they treated it as if he reached into the bum bag and pulled out thumbtacks, like he scattered it all over the ring. I think it was Abyss. I want to say Grado versus Abyss sometime in TNA. Yep, so an object on a pole match. Essentially, the rules for this match is Elias versus Drew. Whoever gets the guitar off the pole and then smashes the guitar over the person's back, or smashes the guitar on the person, they then win that match. So nothing really, groundbreaking there. It's a very old concept for a match that they decided to pull back up for some reason. I wasn't interested one bit, not even with the stipulation in place, wasn't interested one bit. But Jeff does manage to get the guitar from the pole, smashes it over Elias's back. Winner, whiskey for Jeff's dinner. That's how I concluded my notes for that match. I thought everyone's jumping on the bandwagon of abusing Jeff Hardy for his abusing Jeff Hardy for his drunken days. I'll just join in. We then have R-Truth. We discussed this last night, Luke.
The man carrying the show.
They say the real messiah of Monday night. R-Truth he agrees to a match with Bobby Lashley. However, he thinks he's going up against Bobby Boucher, who is Adam Sandler's character from a movie called Waterboy, who is they don't really say it in the movie, much like they don't say it in Forrest Gump, but there is sort of a limited mental capacity for the character. A lot of people weren't happy seeing Adam Sandler portray that for obvious reasons. Like it definitely is a movie that would not get made nowadays. It would not fly with the world. So
that's the movie where he gets put back into school, yeah?
No, that's Billy Madison. That's another movie where...
Is that still not equally as bad, or...?
It's not as bad. The character isn't... How do you phrase it without offending people?
Well, the character...
Mentally challenged, is that?
Yeah,
that's the PC one.
The character himself was apparently he never went to school.
Yeah, no, I think the character dropped out of what would be our primary school, which you can't do. But obviously in America their rules are different. So in Billy Madison he goes back to school as an adult, but he's not mentally challenged, whereas in Waterboy he definitely is. Big Show's in Waterboy as well. Please somebody called Captain Insano. And it's funny because he laughs at the Waterboy character as he does like a phone in on like an old school WWF thing, because he reveals that his character Bobby Boucher reveals that he is in his 30s or something like that, and he still lives with his mum, but he phones in and he talks like a child and he acts like a child. So Captain Insano or Big Show, he's like, "Oh, that's quite cute, kid. How old are you?" And he says he's like 31 or something like that, and Big Show just bursts out laughing. And I think it's Gene Oakland as well. I think Gene Oakland is the announcer, the interviewer that they've got. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've seen it. But anyway, back to wrestling. Unfortunately, R-Truth thinks he's going up against Adam Sandler, but in actual fact, it turns out to be Bobby Lashley, who almost instantly puts him in the Hurt Locker submission. Truth taps instantly. Drew Gulak then appears and tries to go for the pin so that he can win the 24/7 title from Truth. But Lashley instead locks in the Hurt Locker on Drew Gulak. As he releases him, Drew falls on top of Truth and gets the 1, 2, 3. So he is the new 24/7 champion. And they're not, I don't know, I think they're trying to go back to the 24/7 funny stuff, but it's R-Truth that makes it funny. It's not even like Drew Gulak is going to lose this 24/7 title in like a sanctioned match or something. It's not even going to be a joke thing. The only person that can make it funny is R-Truth or Drake Maverick when he had it, but he's in NXT, he's got other stuff going on, so don't think that's happening anytime soon. But I do want to see more R-Truth. I
want to see him beat Bobby.
I want to see him like accidentally beat Randy. Or Drew.
Put him in the mix of all those characters,
Yeah, like
R-Truth just comes in, he's got beef with Randy from like 10 years ago.
Have him appear. What would be a good pay-per-view? So what we've got Survivor
WrestleMania.
You want a WrestleMania one?
Yeah.
So you want WrestleMania, Drew versus Randy versus The Fiend, and R-Truth, who thinks it's a title match for the 24/7 belt, but has accidentally signed a contract for the heavyweight title belt.
Yeah. Joe will have the Universal Championship as well. Drafted.
Yeah.
And then The Fiend will have his belt.
I would actually really like to see R-Truth. Just his entire career is all by accident. Like he accidentally gets into a title match where he accidentally wins. He accidentally then has like.
Well, I want to see him actually win one because the way he wrestles is so charming.
It is a very sort of there's a Tekken character that wrestles a bit like that fights a bit like R-Truth style of wrestling, sort of like breakdancing almost. I like R-Truth. I like watching old R-Truth stuff.
Brock Lesnar loves him.
He does, doesn't he? I read that somewhere, but I can't remember where.
The first bit that they done. Like Brock Lesnar asked to do more with him.
Yeah.
And Brock is like, he doesn't like. Working.
Brock Lesnar doesn't like showing up to work, but no, that is quite sort of wholesome. So we've got AJ Styles then in the ring, who introduces his team so far for Survivor Series, which is Keith Lee and Sheamus. The two begin to bicker, and that draws out the monster among men, Braun Strowman. Strowman says that he should be on the team, but Lee reminds him that he didn't qualify, and that's the whole point of a qualifying match. Which is very. I thought it was a wee bit weird. To me, it kind of seemed as if they were all children, and the Survivor Series team was like a football team or something like that, like a school football team, or just a group of pals that all want to play in the same team, and Braun Strowman shows up like the fat kid. Like, oh, can I play? I want to be on the team, sort of thing. So that was a little bit weird for Strowman just to show up.
I haven't seen Strowman in a while.
Well, he was on last week. He was on Raw last week, but he didn't do much.
Yeah, that's what
he lost against Keith Lee.
But like, whatever happened to the Swamp match? Like, what did that culminate to?
After the Swamp match happened, he shaved his head. That was it. Shaved his head. He was in the title match for the Universal belt,
even though the match should have never happened.
Which Roman then cheated to win, and not even like good heel cheating, just like outright. The match had started. He wasn't in the ring, therefore he's not a competitor.
let's not get ourselves.
Yeah, let's not go down that road again. So, Braun Strowman wants to be in the Survivor Series team. Styles suggests a triple threat match. Sheamus versus Lee versus Strowman. If Strowman wins, he gets a place on the team. Adam Pearce then agrees to this. Adam Pearce is apparently the GM of Monday Night Raw.
Oh.
Yeah, I must have missed that announcement. If there even was an announcement. I want the GM to be an old superstar. I want it to be... Because your general managers used to be... your general managers are commissioners. Your general managers used to be Stephanie McMahon for Raw and Shane McMahon for SmackDown. The commissioners of each show was Mick Foley for Raw. Now Mick Foley got fired and someone else took over, but I can't remember who that was. But it was Mick Foley for Raw, and then it's Daniel Bryan for SmackDown. That was a great dynamic.
Yeah.
Actually letting the fans see the whole planning out a show, because it's a televised show that has a 3-hour time slot. Obviously, it's not going to be made up on the fly. Obviously, it's not going to be Randy Orton's in the ring, challenges someone, Alexa Bliss comes out, then Alexa Bliss disappears and Drew reappears. Like, it was good to see Daniel Bryan announce who was facing who and what it would mean for, their careers and stuff.
You know who would be a good commissioner? Randy. I think what he would do is just have this manipulative, snaky approach to setting matches up and all that. And I would purposely make stomp matches happen to get results that he wants for other people
To benefit him.
that kind of thing.
That would be quite good.
Because Daniel Bryan and Mick Foley were they were just nice.
They were both good guys.
Good guys and all that. So I'd like to see a cool authority thing.
I would quite like to see Ric Flair as commissioner mess about with Randy to the point where Randy takes his job and then does the storyline you've just went. I think it would be quite good, because it would mean that Randy's been a snake, he's went behind Ric Flair's back, he's got him fired, or he's injured him. Maybe he's injured him again and somebody needs to fill that seat. And now let's say due to Ric Flair's actions, Randy has lost the belt at this point. Randy just puts on a shirt and tie. Well, not a metaphorical shirt and tie.
Yeah. And
then boom, he is the commissioner of Monday Night Raw, and his whole mission is to just fuck about with Drew.
Yeah.
I think that'd be. Honestly, I don't like fantasy booking Raw, because I know that you and I and half of our fans on social media can fantasy book the show better than they can really book it.
But it's fun.
It's fun. I like
fantasy
fantasy booking. I used to do fantasy stuff on the 2K games before they got really difficult to play, because you would do a superplex inside the ring and end up on the entrance ramp because your character would just fucking fly.
And then your character would be too tired to get up because it's all simulated and all
and
that.
It's a 10-second count out and the referee skips 4 numbers and your character's just lying dead outside the ring. There's no tap, there's no, rotate the sticks or whatever. Congosaurus is in our live chat box this evening. Hello Congosaurus, how are you? We have Congosaurus saying, why do any of them even want to be on Team Raw? 2 of them weren't even on the brand 2 weeks ago, so why would they give a single damn about Raw having bragging rights? Survivor Series used to be a great pay-per-view, but now it's just a waste of time that makes 3 or 4 weeks of TV before it's even worse storytelling than normal. In fact, 3 of them were on SmackDown, but Braun had decided he was hanging about Raw too for a few weeks. That's a good point. Braun just hung about on Raw.
Yeah. I guess it's the whole being the top guy of the show, that the brand that they're on for bragging rights.
Yeah.
But I do get what you mean.
They do a draft, and then so soon after the draft, they're asking people who weren't on their brand before to now compete for their brand. They haven't been there long enough for any sort of loyalty to form. They all just want paid.
Is there set times when they do drafts?
I think they do drafts when they feel like doing drafts.
Because you could have easily, since Survivor Series is like a team tournament kind of thing, easily just do the draft based on that.
Yeah.
Remember we talked about a draft tournament, Survivor Series draft.
Yeah, because Monday Night Raw is still the number one brand, like the number one brand on the company.
Yeah.
SmackDown very rarely takes over here and there. It was definitely, SmackDown was better than Raw when Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan were at the top of it, but then Shane McMahon started to get too involved, like started to book himself in matches and booking himself to win matches, especially the Greatest in the World tournament, where him and The Miz were best friends. They were in a tag team. The Miz was in the finals and then fell injured, and Shane McMahon was like, do you know what, I've got the perfect guy to fill that spot, me. And everybody was like, oh, so it's not even like a surprise, it's not even a shock thing, it's just Shane is going to win this thing because he wants to win it. Kongsaurus, like they could get AJ to want to captain because he doesn't like Heyman, who is associated with SmackDown's leader, at least put some personal character issues into it. I suppose if you're going to drag up Jeff Hardy's alcohol problems, why not drag up some bad blood between people? You can make up bad blood. We might buy it, you know, but I don't know. I don't know.
Most bad blood is made up in WWE.
Most bad blood that we know about is made up, but there is, you find out when people leave the company, when they have their podcast interviews or they have their interviews, their like written interviews with sports journalism, you find out that there was a lot of bad blood backstage. There's a group on YouTube, and they do something called Who Was a Dick?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you've seen that one. I don't know if anyone hasn't seen it. What they do is, I think they had Awesome Kong on it previously. They had Kevin Nash.
They had Hornswoggle.
They had Hornswoggle, and they basically go through a list of people that were in the company with these people during their time with WWE, or even wrestling. In fact, I think they go through a very wide range of names, and this person will reveal honestly if they are a dick or if they are quite a cool person. Awesome Kong seems to think that a lot of people are cool, whereas Kevin Nash, when he was on it, was the exact opposite. A lot of people were dicks, but Kevin Nash is a bit of a dick. Like, that's just... I'm a fan of Kevin Nash. I'm a fan of Diesel. I was a fan of the WCW thing where it was the Outsiders and then the NWO. Awesome stuff. But you do need to admit Kevin Nash is a bit of a dick. That's just how it is. And when you become that big, you know, obviously he's a very tall guy, but when you become that big metaphorically, like popular and stuff, then yeah, I would let it go to my head. I will admit right now that if I ever became as popular as Kevin Nash, I would definitely become a dick and probably not even realise it.
I'd agree.
Yeah, you don't know. Anyway, so going back to the match, where were we? Oh, that's right. Strowman in the triple threat match versus Sheamus and Keith Lee. We get a nice Tower of Doom from the top rope where oh God, I can't even remember the layout of the Tower of Doom, but it's a very, very nice Tower of Doom. I believe it is Strowman and Keith Lee and Sheamus superplexes the both of them from the top rope. Strowman then picks up the win after a not too bad display from all three men. Braun Strowman did sort of reassert himself as the monster with a couple of big moves. So he now has won that match and he is on the Survivor Series team. So thumbs up to Braun for wanting to be on the Survivor Series team for a brand that you don't belong on, and you shouldn't care about, because you're not. I wouldn't even say you were done feuding with the Fiend. And
but I know he is apparently.
Apparently, so I know he's on the opposite brand. No, he's not on the opposite brand. He's on the same brand.
Yeah.
What am I talking about? They're on the same brand. You know, I never got a climax to that thing. That stupid storyline. We get the.
I bet they bring Braun back to fight with Randy Orton against the Fiend.
Yeah, but just throw Braun into the title scene as well. Why not? Eh?
Who doesn't like Bray Wyatt? on Raw.
Just ever since he came back doing the Firefly Funhouse, I thought he's honestly just been the absolute bee's knees.
Okay.
I think it's a very good character change.
No, I mean like on like a wrestler who doesn't like him, like
a wrestler that doesn't like Bray Wyatt.
Who's feuding with him. I think Bray's good as well.
I think there's probably a lot of people that don't like the Fiend in the wrestling.
No, I mean like a wrestler.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's probably a lot of characters that don't like the Fiend. Like Ali doesn't like the Fiend.
Right, okay.
Randy Orton doesn't like the Fiend. Drew's teamed up with the Fiend. But
so like a guy that would help Randy out because it's like a 5-on-1.
Maybe Retribution might help Randy out. On command of Mustafa Ali.
Let's not talk about them.
We're actually not going to have to talk about them a lot here. There's only like one line I've got here. But speaking of Bray, we do get the Firefly Funhouse, where he references Randy Orton burning down the Wyatt compound. Alexa then appears and starts to ooze blood out of her mouth, and Bray closes the segment by saying, "Oh shit," but in like a very cartoonish way, like a family friendly "oh shit" sort of thing. Lana then gets thrown through another table. This is now week 7 of Lana just being put through the announcers table by Nia Jax.
I like the idea of it.
Yeah, nothing against it. I'm happy with that. New Day takes on the Hurt Business. Kofi Kingston looks good. Just Kofi Kingston. Nothing new about the stuff he's doing. However, he then tags in Xavier Woods, who, when were we talking about Xavier Woods? 2-3 weeks ago. His tremendous performance.
When he had that really good match.
Yeah.
And then they sidelined him straight away.
Yep, so they got him in this tag match. They tagged him. Well, Kofi Kingston tagged him in, and Xavier Woods just again went mental. It was great. He's definitely built up some more muscle mass, which.
Well, if he's not gaming, he's.
I suppose if up down down is no longer there, he's going to have to start lifting those weights up down down. So yeah, that was good. Good seeing Woods getting in there. Hurt Business do pick up the win with a nice blind tag from Benjamin to Cedric Alexander, I believe it is. Might be the other way around. Retribution make another appearance. Tucker takes on Ricochet for some random reason. Like, this is where it would be good to have a general manager or a commissioner explain who's wrestling who and why this person's wrestling this person, because Ricochet and Tucker, there's no connection there at all.
I saw someone say Tucker's a jobber now.
Yeah, Tucker got a bit of a attack on social media. So Tucker takes on Ricochet. It's a very fast match where Retribution come out and beat up both men. And because of how quick the match was, how quickly the match ended, there's someone who took a screenshot of that match, and then in their tweet it was something along the lines of, imagine going from a great tag team to an okay tag team to betraying your partner and becoming a singles competitor and then losing in a minute and 30 seconds. And Tucker responded with, "Dude, I've got a family." Like, so real.
Yeah.
So Congo in the chat box, Kevin Nash is just as he knows it, creates views and interest and keeps his name out there. Yeah, he does. Doesn't mean he's not a dick, but he is. He does sort of keep the world aware that he's still alive. The bit before the match with Woods,
have you seen his surgeries?
I've seen a list of the surgeries he's had. I've not seen the sort of the surgeries he's undergoing.
Yeah, so it's weird. His legs and his torso don't line up.
I'm not in my head. That's like a weird video game glitch.
That is exactly how it is. So.
Oh god.
So he had surgery to line him, like, his spine up with his, like, hips and all that. It was really weird.
Yeah.
Because it generally was like a video game glitch.
Wow.
It was since he's a tall guy, big proportions, it looked even weirder.
He has. I've seen the list of how many surgeries he's had, and it gets to a point where it's like, oh Jesus, man. Especially in America, like all those surgeries cost him money. Although I know how much money that costs him, but all those surgeries cost him money. Still, though, I don't think his amount of surgeries matches the Undertaker's surgeries, where the Last Ride documentary, the doctor said, how many surgeries have you had? And the Undertaker started counting fingers and then just went, I don't know. So, okay. That's too many surgeries.
He gets one like every WrestleMania.
He has to, especially in his knees. Which, and we'll get into this a little bit later on. Actually, no, do you know what? I'll ask you just now. I'll give you time to think about it. The Undertaker has announced that he is retiring officially. He will not have any more matches. We'll see. But he's officially come out and said that he is done with wrestling. He will say he will make his presence known to the WWE Universe when it's required, but he will not have any more matches. Apparently there will be a tribute at Survivor Series to honour the man's career. So to give you time to think about it, I will ask you what your favourite Undertaker moment is, and don't worry about it being mainstream or anything like that, or don't worry about it being... I honestly considered the Hell in a Cell match with Mankind, and then the Hell in a Cell match with Triple H with Shawn Michaels as a special guest referee.
Two very good matches.
Very good ones. I've decided to go for a different one, mainly because I'm not sure if people at home will consider this one on their list, and I think it should at least be rewatched before Survivor Series, just to remember the dead man, you know.
Well, I do like that match that has been turned into a meme, where Randy has supposedly killed him.
And the burned coffin.
And he comes back and you just see Randy's
face.
That's a really good moment.
That's actually a very good moment.
A fond memory was when I was like, it's probably the 2008 or 2010 Royal Rumble.
Okay.
And The Undertaker's the world heavyweight champion, and he's against Rey Mysterio.
I'm thinking that might be 2008.
Same.
I'm thinking 2008 there.
It was because one of the matches had in DVD, so I could have watched it a lot more often.
Yeah.
And I just liked it because Rey bust opened the Undertaker's nose.
Yep.
Gave him a concussion.
Which is always tremendous to see, a nice bit of colour.
Yeah.
One of my fondest memories of The Undertaker, I was going to save this for the end, but we're kind of getting into it now. One of my fondest memories is where he kidnapped Stephanie McMahon.
Oh yeah.
In the limousine, and she climbs in to...
He turns around.
I think she's trying to escape from someone. I need to rewatch the story. She's trying to escape from someone. It might even be Undertaker she's trying to escape from. And she jumps in the limo, she slams the door shut, and she shouts drive. And then the little black screen opens and the Undertaker turns around like, "Where to, Stephanie?" Then he puts her on a cross and tries to marry her. Yeah.
Odd.
Very odd. So we close off Monday Night Raw with Drew McIntyre taking on The Miz and John Morrison in a 2v1 handicap match after what happened earlier in the show where Drew interrupted the cash-in. Drew looks really good taking out these two, and I've put on my notes here jobbers, not jobbers, because they're not jobbers. They have been in the company for a long time. John Morrison, he did leave, but when he came back, you know, he is quite popular in the company, so he's not a jobber. However, when you go up against a guy like Drew McIntyre, you look like a jobber. So we got a couple of cool spots here and there. We got a nice release German suplex from the top rope, where McIntyre just fucking tosses John Morrison. McIntyre gets the pin on Miz. Orton comes out to hit a nice RKO, and then the show closes with Wyatt's laughter filling the arena. I'm happy that it was Bray Wyatt's laughter and not the weird Fiend noise that's like a 3-second loop of nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah.
We've got Congo in the chat box that's just reminded us that it was the Oh no, sorry, my mistake. It's not. He's not reminding you. He's telling us his favourite Undertaker moment, which was the casket match at the Royal Rumble 1994 versus Yokozuna. That was a good one. That's a very good one, actually. Do you know what? I think I might go back and watch The Last Ride again.
Well, we're also forgetting when he gets the big box, white glass box, puts Paul Bearer on it.
Yeah.
And fills it with cement.
Yeah, that was a good one as well.
Yes.
What
else are we missing? CM Punk's feud with The Undertaker. Did they have one?
They did. They had a feud. They had I believe it was a Money in the Bank feud that went on to WrestleMania. Or it maybe it wasn't as long as that. Maybe it was Elimination Chamber into WrestleMania, where CM Punk dressed up as Undertaker and Paul Heyman dressed up as the recently deceased Paul Bearer.
Mm-hmm.
That did not go down well with the family. There has been reports from close friends and relatives of the family that they were asked if they could do it, and the family said no, and Paul Heyman still went ahead with it.
You know,
so
the guy that hired New Jack and all that.
Good point. Yep, good point. New Jack. We covered New Jack a couple of weeks ago. If anyone's interested in hearing our take on New Jack and filling you in on some maybe not so well known matches of New Jack where he takes things a bit to the extreme. So that was the end of Monday Night Raw. So just to sort of ahead of times here, there will be no NXT review this week because I was not really interested in it. There was a lot of matches I skipped through. What I'm finding is the NXT matches are really long and they're really dragged out. So the the Halloween Havoc was a good show, like a special episode. That was good. Takeover was good, but their weekly shows are just quite long now, especially the matches. There's not much storyline progression anymore. There's not a lot of backstage stuff. We did have Johnny Gargano playing a board game with the character from Scream, what's Ghostface, that's the guy, where Ghostface phoned up and said, "I'm in your house," and then Johnny Gargano said, "Yeah, it's your turn," and the camera zoomed out and they were both sitting at the table playing a board game. Just a little bit of funny stuff. Johnny Gargano now being the North American champion, we'll see where that goes. I believe Damian Priest has a rematch due for the title, which will be good. Always good to see Damian Priest. Well, really just a match with anyone. That's good.
So do you think that they should really go with the superstars talent going down to NXT to give it more of a name, more of a presence?
I think that might be something to consider. However, a more immediate fix would be just make the matches
shorter.
A little bit shorter, yeah, like an edible amount of time.
Like shorten the matches and add a match.
Shorten the matches, add a match, or shorten the matches and add a couple of backstage segments. You know, just a little bit more, than what we're getting just now. It just feels a bit long still. We did get the Undisputed Era finally coming to a close, where Pat McAfee has assembled Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly, no, is it Bobby Fish and Roderick Strong, and Pete Dunne, I think. They've now formed a new group. So they've now formed a new group. I'm not really sure where they're going with it. Pete Dunne, I thought it's good to see Pete Dunne again, especially after he won the NXT UK Championship from Tyler. No, oh god, the name escapes me. But he held that NXT UK title for a long time, and then dropped it to Walter. So we'll see where it goes. But yeah, there's no full review for NXT this week. Congo's just jumping in there, says it's Oney Lorcan, Danny Burch and Pete Dunne and Pat McAfee. They're the new group thing. He also feels the NXT might be a bit more enjoyable if there was less false finishes and less 50-50 matches. Yeah, I'd say you're absolutely right there. So we'll move on then to the next show, which is Impact Wrestling. Impact was quite enjoyable this week, I do have to admit. I do always keep an eye on all of wrestling throughout the week, and if there's interesting moments we will cover it as much as we can, which is why there's no NXT, because there wasn't really many interesting moments. But Impact this week we have Lock Gallows taking on Ethan Page. It's quite different to see Gallows in the ring instead of Carl Anderson, but it was good to watch a big guy taking on Ethan Page, who's average height, average build, whereas Lock Gallows is definitely the much taller of the two. He hits Ethan Page with a nice big boot after an attempt to distract him from Ethan's tag partner, and after that big boot, Ethan Page stands stunned for like 2 whole minutes. It reminded me of like Shawn Michaels selling. After, who was it that took the super kick? Who gave Shawn Michaels the super kick and he was just rocking back and forward? Was it Hulk Hogan or something?
Oh, I forgot.
And he sells it for like 2.5 minutes of him just moving, rocking back.
I know
and
Shawn
forth
has a very unique style of selling where he just moves all the time.
He does good there. So yep, Ethan Page is stunned for like 2 whole minutes and then just drops like a tree. It was good. We then get Sami Callihan and Eric Young, your sort of heel impromptu team, going up against Rich Swann and Eddie Edwards. Rich Swann is your current Impact champion. The match was actually quite good. Lots of good spots. Good sort of teamwork from the bad guys especially, I thought was quite good to see. They were sort of gelling quite well. Shamrock then comes out to assist the villains. And by assist the villains, he throws Rich Swann right into the steel steps. And because there's no crowd and there's no Thunderdome audio being put over the matches, you hear Rich Swann's head hitting the steel steps and it's a tremendous thump. It was woo. Yeah, it made me worry for Rich Swann for a second, but you see him later on sort of standing, which is good. So yep, great sound comes off that steel steps spot. The heels pick up the victory. Eric Young, Sami Callihan and Ken Shamrock get in the ring and all 3 men raise their arms in victory, which is cool. Tommy Dreamer is investigating who shot Johnny Bravo at his wedding, which is just a funny little side story. He's investigating it shows you all the people that Johnny Bravo pissed off in the build up to his wedding, and then it shows you Tommy Dreamer wearing like a Sherlock Holmes hat and sunglasses going backstage and talking to people before they're literally before they're going to go out and have a match. They're kind of like, listen, Tommy, I've not got time for this. I've just got a couple more questions to ask you. It was pretty funny. So yeah, that Impact was good. We did have a Heath Slater moment where he won a match at Bound for Glory. That means he can get a contract. He sits down with the... Oh God, I can't remember the guy's name. He sits down with this guy who's like the... He's like the Vince McMahon of TNA, but he's more on screen. So he's not really the owner, but he is the face of the company just now, the business face of the company. Sits down with Heath Slater and Rhino. Says, Heath, Scott D'Amore, thank you Congosaurus, Scott D'Amore. So they sit down and he goes, right, here's your contract, do you want to sign it? Sign it and we'll get you in a match tonight. But at Bound for Glory, Heath suffered a leg injury and he's a little bit nervous about getting in the ring, and he's like, oh listen man, if you're not going to wrestle, why don't we just leave the contract signing for like later on? And Heath is like, no man, I can sign it, and he goes, no listen Heath, I'm best interest at heart, I want you to sign it if you're 100%. And then Heath is like, no, do you know, I'm going to go think about it, and he gets up and he walks away. So he's fought all this time for a TNA contract, and now that it's right in front of him, he's got an injured leg, and if he signs the contract, he's going to have to wrestle that night, and he knows that he can't do that. So it's like, I think before they walk out, he mumbles that it's like, after every hurdle, there's another hurdle. And it was like quite, it's like, oh, come on, Heath. AEW Dynamite this week. We start off with opening tag action where MJF and Wardlow take on Sammy Guevara and Ortiz. Just before the match starts, Jericho calls MJF soft, and the fans imitate the chanting straight away, like something like a Rock promo. It goes absolutely wild, calling him soft. I actually thought it was quite good tag teamwork between MJF and Wardlow, which is interesting because I wasn't expecting such good teamwork from them. What I did notice as well is that MJF only tagged in when the opponent was already down. So like Wardlow would kick Ortiz right in the face, he would go down to the ground semi-conscious, and then MJF would be like, right, okay, tag me in. That's
just character.
Great heel character work. I thought it was great. Wardlow, basically letting Wardlow do all the hard work because he is the big guy, which is absolutely what the heel should be doing in this situation. MJF prepares to throw Ortiz into Wardlow's knee. Ortiz reverses it, and MJF nearly takes a mean knee shot to the face, to which he then starts shouting at Wardlow for having his knee up. But MJF is the one that asked Wardlow to put his knee up to hit Ortiz on it, and then as soon as it was put into the situation where MJF was going to take the shot, he was like, oh, come on, what are you doing with your knee up like that? And Wardlow just kind of shakes his head and shrugs and puts it back down. Sammy spends a lot of time in the tag rope as MJF and Wardlow won't let Ortiz get to his corner. Sammy gets in eventually. We get a nice double takedown, an acrobatics corkscrew tope suicida. I tried to say that too quickly there, I got all muddled up. MJF and Sammy end up alone inside the ring. We get a nice backflip from Sammy because MJF tries to... I think MJF catches his foot and tries to flip him onto his back, but Sammy Guevara goes all the way over, lands on his feet again, so that was quite impressive acrobatics. MJF, realising that Sammy has just done this, just pokes him in the eye. Just great heel character. All three men end up on the top rope. I believe it is Sammy and Ortiz on the left and right, with MJF in like a sort of double headlock where they're going to toss him over. But Wardlow gets underneath the three men and throws the two inner circle guys. But unfortunately, in doing this, MJF lands right on his back from a really, really high height, and sells it so well. Like he's bouncing about as if his back's like snapped in multiple places. Like he's proper rolling about in what looks to be absolute agony. He then just drags MJF into the corner and tags himself in because at that point he wasn't the legal man. Sammy clears the ring, and then as he's outside, Serpentico reaches for a high five, but then smacks Sammy Guevara with a chair, takes off the mask. Serpentico is actually Matt Hardy. MJF locks in the armbar on Ortiz to pick up the win. And then on their way out, Sammy Guevara is lying unconscious outside the ring. Ortiz is sort of rolling about in agony. Matt Hardy has disappeared. And on Wardlow and MJF's exit, MJF just runs right at commentary where Jericho's sitting and spears him right through this big AEW Dynamite like backdrop thing. And apparently that spear really messed up Jericho's audio. So for like the rest of the show, he sounds as if he's... Well, not for the rest of the show, for some of the show, he sounds as if he's in a different room, just shouting, and you can hear him shouting through JR's mic, which is pretty funny as well. We then get Kenny Omega and Tony Schiavone, who are on a couch with a puppy, and they're discussing Kenny's sort of journey through AEW, the 8-man tournament, up until the finals at Full Gear. Tony comments that it's a cute puppy. Kenny Omega then says that it's not his dog, it's not even his house. And then they didn't really mention much more after that about whose house it was or where they were, so Kenny Omega's just broken into this random ass house. It says that he's relocated to Jacksonville to 100% focus on the finals at Full Gear. They talk about the build up to the finals and how well Kenny's done despite every opponent that he was supposed to face was replaced at the last minute. Kenny mentions that he deserves to be in the finals because he went into the match against Sonny Kiss prepared to face Joey Janela and had to change the battle plan at the last minute and still won. He went into the match against Penta prepared to face Rey Fenix and had to change it at the last minute because of that replacement. So he's like not full heel, but he's definitely been quite an arrogant character here, saying that he deserves to win it because all of his matches were scams, kind of. So we... where was I? Yes, okay, so in this interview I thought the character of Kenny Omega was good, but I did not like his acting, which I think is why we didn't like him on commentary.
Yeah.
Because his character comes across quite well, but his acting I think is what spoils it. So I've noted here that I understand why Jim Cornette doesn't like him, and I can also kind of understand why our fan Chris Hawthorne doesn't like him. He doesn't come off as a great heel, and he doesn't come off as a great face. He just sometimes comes across as annoying, which isn't a heel or face attribute. It's just...
That's like a Roman Reigns kind of situation.
Yeah, he's not really a character, he's just annoying.
He's a mega in-ring performer.
Oh, definitely.
And that only really truly works out when you're in Japan. Because in Japan, promos are different.
They are.
Because, like, you know, obviously you're not Japanese and all that. You can't speak the language. And then it was like all with the Bullet Club. It's just... I've never really seen that many promos from him, but I've always seen him in ring doing work, and it's just great.
I think what New Japan, and I think All Japan used to do this as well, instead of doing like an in-ring promo or a behind-the-scenes promo, they will dedicate an entire section of TV time to doing like a press conference, like UFC or boxing, where you'll have the owner or you'll have some sort of official person. Then on one side you'll have the heel, and then on the other side you'll have the face. They'll both have the time to talk. They both get given an equal amount of time to talk. You're not there to interfere, you're not even there to fight, you're literally just there to build up the match. And if things start to get heated, so like a lot of, like, you know, you can go onto YouTube and you can very easily find a UFC press conference or a boxing press conference that is just broken down. And obviously these people genuinely want to fight each other. They're not acting, they're genuinely wanting to hurt each other to win titles or even just to end feuds. Like, none of it is storylines. Well, some of it's probably storylines. There's probably storylines under there. But they genuinely want to hurt people and hurt each other. And I think the way that New Japan does it is quite impressive. And yeah, I don't know, I would maybe do something like that rather than the way things are being done just now. Maybe borrow some ideas from different places just for the fans' sake, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You know, that's just how it is. But yeah, that'll be my opinion on that one. We've got Trent from the Best Friends taking on Miro. And yes, this storyline is based on the fact that the Best Friends had broken Kip Sabian's video game. The best friends come out first, and Tony mentions that Jericho's audio was messed up after he was attacked by MJF, and it does sound as if he's like a million miles away. Miro comes out with the Superbad Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford. I genuinely think that Miro looks really good. Definitely buffed up quite a lot, which is cool. We get a glimpse at a Zoom interview between Miro, Trent, and Excalibur as the host, and they're talking about their relationship in FCW, which is WWE's developmental before NXT. So that goes like way back. That's where Batista and Randy Orton and John Cena all came from before NXT was a thing.
Yeah.
So they're talking about their days in FCW. Apparently they were pretty close, and they got on really well. They'd done a lot of car journeys together. Before the match manages to start, Miro grabs a mic off Justin Roberts and makes a comment about Trent's mum's parenting. Her parenting was bad, and that's why he's turned out the way he has. Trent then just flies at him before, like they're forced to ring the bell because Trent has just drop kicked Miro, which I think was great. We get Jericho in commentary, which is great the entire night. Jericho mentions, someone mentions that they can buy AEW shirts and other merchandise from shopaew.com, to which Jericho asks Excalibur if he has any merch to sell, and Excalibur like sadly just goes like, no, quite quietly, no, I don't have any merch. Jericho shouts at him, no you don't, stupid answer, Excalibur. Miro looks good during this match, thought it was great. Ford slaps Orange Cassidy outside of the ring. His sunglasses fly off, so he takes her sunglasses off of her head, and he does the whole hands in pocket gimmick thing. Silver's, yeah, it's pretty cool, especially when he's in a match like who was in a match with, and he took an absolute pounding, he took an absolute beating, and he got up and he looked his opponent dead in the eye, and he still did the hands in pockets thing.
The match yesterday, well, the one I watched at Full Gear. The
Full Gear one was supposed to be really good. Yeah, as I say, I've not seen it.
It was decent.
Yeah.
It was surprisingly good because the guy he was against was like, I don't really know him. He just felt quite random, but
yeah,
he done well.
You don't really know him. I don't really know John Silver's either. However, he has quite a big social media following. I believe he has built up quite a name in the independent scene, and a lot of people are really pleased to see him on a big screen. You know, a big company like AEW. So he's also doing a lot of good stuff in Being the Elite, which is the YouTube show that AEW do. I'm not fully up to date on Being the Elite, but yes, even Congo's jumped in there saying that John Silver is brilliant and he's the star of Being the Elite. So there we go. If anyone doesn't know him too much, feel free to check him out on Being the Elite on YouTube, or even just see if you can find out any of his older matches and find out what the hype is about. Miro does a lot of spitting in this match as well. Just sort of a lot of grog about the place. He locks on the Accolade on Trent, maybe holds it for about a minute, and Trent's forced to tap. Obviously the Accolade looks quite painful, well, especially when it's locked in properly and not what it was like 2 weeks ago when he locked it in above the guy's head, and then the guy had to adjust himself into position. So when it's locked in, it does look quite sore. The bell gets rung. Miro has won this match, however he locks in another Accolade. Chuck Taylor, who's the other half of Best Friends, comes out to beat him down, who he is then followed by Kip Sabian. They brawl outside the ring. Miro grabs the mic again and comments on Trent's mum and her parenting and all that jazz. Orange Cassidy climbs up in the top rope and takes out both Miro and Kip as they're sort of standing over Chuck Taylor and Trent's bodies, basically. So Orange Cassidy and Best Friends make it very obvious that they're best friends and that they're best friends with Orange Cassidy, whereas Orange Cassidy's so nonchalant where he probably doesn't care. However, he was there to help his friends, which is cool. We have Hangman, who has a talk with JR. Now, I mentioned this to you. This is the first time we see Hangman tonight, and he is pissed.
Yeah.
He shows up absolutely steaming. I don't know if it's kayfabe steaming or if it's shoot steaming. I hope it's real drunk because it was really funny.
What was the tag thing on his name? Do you know?
No, because it was an interview. He didn't get a tag.
The one at Full Gear was like certified Yeehaw Man or something.
Oh, that's tremendous. For such a match. They tried to make it quite emotional and that they were best friends and they were tag partners turned enemies and stuff. To have it come out as still a joke is pretty cool. Like, they didn't lose that. I thought that was great. So yeah, there we go. So certified Yeehaw Man. That what it said, yeah. Something like that, yeah.
Something about Yeehaw.
There we go. That's pretty cool. But yep. So he's interviewed by JR on Dynamite. He comes out with a drink in his hand. He's already slurring his words. JR asks if he's had more to drink than the one in his hand, and if he's nervous for Full Gear. He comments that he's a little nervous, but who wouldn't be? When the company started, I said I was going to be the first AEW champion. No one believed me, but me. No one believed that, but me, and they were all right. You can hear someone absolutely howling in the background of laughter just at that comment where he's like, do you know what, I came to this company and I said I was going to be champion and I was wrong. You just hear this guy in the background like ha ha ha. So yep, he says that everybody was right, he never became champion. Hangman says that if he doesn't win the tournament, all he has left is this glass of whiskey. And then there's a long pause, and then JR opens his mouth as if he's about to speak, and Hangman just goes, but it's good whiskey. JR comments on word of advice from his mum would be moderation, my friend, moderation. The Young Bucks have got a nice video package that covers their feud with FTR. And do you know, I will say this, I haven't seen their match yet, however I'm excited to see their match. I do know the outcome, which I was kind of hoping they weren't going to go with something like that. I kind of wanted there to be a surprise, because the stipulation made the match outcome seem quite predictable, and I was kind of hoping there'd be something else. However, it's already been logged as a #1 contender for the best match of the year, as has Omega versus Hangman. Both of them are in the running for the best match of the year. Not a single WWE match has been put forward for any sort of match of the year.
I'm trying to think of what
it's a weird year.
Yeah.
Like, you do have to take into consideration the fact that there are no fans. There's smaller arenas and stuff like that.
Like,
but
the fans are a part of the performance.
Exactly.
The fans are a part of the show or the storyline, and I don't know. I can't think of a WWE match I really enjoyed. There was John Cena, Firefly Fun.
Okay.
Match, right?
Okay. Yep. That was a good one.
That is definitely one of my favourite matches of the year from WWE. Because it achieved so much in a creative manner. But man, yeah, AEW just been doing so much better. Because like, despite not having any fans there, which is the main point of wrestling, in my opinion, they still just hit it out of the park. It's great.
Yeah, I think it was great. So we've got Congo in the chat box again saying that it was an extremely good match, great storytelling, both teams looked great. Do you know what, Congo, while we are going through the rest of the notes, tell us what matches you would put forward, see if there's any matches in WWE that we might not be thinking about just now. Surely the best wrestling match ever is the best match ever, let alone of the year.
What?
Oh, I wonder if he's talking about the Edge versus Randy Orton, the greatest wrestling match.
Oh, right, yeah, I forgot it was called that.
Yeah, that load of nonsense. On a more serious note, Congosaurus, take time to think about what matches you would put forward for this year's match of the year. I am probably going to have to watch Full Gear before I come with a decision. But I'm going to say that it's going to be something from Full Gear, whether it's Hangman versus Omega, or even Cody versus Brody Lee for the dog collar match. I thought was great. John Moxley versus Eddie Kingston. I'm really excited to see that one, the Full Gear match.
That was good. I saw the first half, but then the YouTube video got taken down. But
I will find a way for us to watch the full match, because I know the result. I won't say the result in case anyone hasn't seen the result yet. I do know the result. I also know that Eddie Kingston poured rubbing alcohol on John Moxley after using barbed wire and after using a chair and stuff like that.
The finish is pretty good.
Right, okay. It's the finish I'm probably most excited for.
Mm-hmm.
I know who wins. I want to know why this happens.
It's pretty interesting, I'd say.
Yeah, so Team Taz comes out and demands a meeting with Tony Khan. Because, well, I say demands a meeting, he demands that Tony Khan listen to what he's going to say, because he keeps apparently avoiding him backstage, which I think's funny. Taz can't get a meeting with and Tony Khan, we've discussed it, Tony Khan just looks like a skinny, specky geek. He doesn't look like the Vince McMahon type, he doesn't look like the Ted Turner, he doesn't look like the Eric Bischoff, he just looks like a proper random ass looking guy. Like a tech guy, like an IT guy, except he is the owner of AEW. So Taz wants to speak with him because not one of his teammates, Brian Cage or Ricky Starks, have a match at Full Gear, and he says that that's just absolute shocking. We also get Brian Cage on the mic and Ricky Starks talking about how Darby Allin's in a title match at Full Gear. Never mind a match at all. He's in a title match of all things, and he's proper, angry, emotional at that fact. But yep. So moving on from that, then we get Private Party versus Young Bucks. Matt Hardy, not Matt Jackson. Matt Hardy comes out with Private Party, but Sammy attacks him from behind and leaves his body on the entrance ramp. I didn't think Matt was selling his leg injury. Sorry, now I'm talking about Matt Jackson. I didn't think he was selling his leg injury from last week, but he does make it clear actually once he gets in the ring that his leg is still sore from the chair shot that he took, that weird sort of calf crusher chair thing that they did on him last week. Isaiah Cassidy is thrown from the top rope and takes a mean bump on the entrance ramp. It looks as if it might not have supposed to have been as serious a bump as it was, but he lands quite hard. Mark Quinn hits a nice double Hurricane Rana, which I've never seen before, taking down two guys with a Hurricane Rana. Nice look for the tag. Nick Jackson looks for the tag, but Matt can't stand up. And you do see this face on Nick Jackson, but it's kind of like, oh, fuck. Like he's done. He is done wrestling just now. He would like to tag out to his brother, and then as soon as he sees that his brother's still lying down, clutching his leg, he realises he's going to have to wrestle for a little bit longer, and he doesn't want to do that. I quite liked seeing that because it made me think of, in the near future, the Young Bucks split, which I think will be really interesting, seeing as their entire career is as a tag team. So, yeah, we get a nice Hurricane Rana from the top rope that leads into a cutter from Cassidy. Just catches it mid-air straight into a cutter. It was awesome. The Bucks try and go for the Meltzer driver, but Matt can't hold Quinn up. Cassidy holds Nick back and Quinn goes for a roll-up, reverse, reverse, reverse. Matt kicks out, the Bucks get together and do the BTE trigger, and they pick up the win. FTR attacks, and they put Matt's other leg in the same chair position that it was in last week, and they go to absolutely take him out, like basically cripple him, because if both legs hurt, he's basically crippled at that point. So they go to do that, but Hangman Page comes out of nowhere, still holding a glass of whiskey. Is it the same glass? Chris Jericho didn't think so. Chris Jericho was like, JR, you know that's not the same glass of whiskey he was drinking before. FTR run away, which I thought was strange. pretty sure they could take out Nick Jackson and a drunk Adam Page while Matt Jackson sits there clutching his broken leg, but apparently no, it was enough for them to run away. Kenny Omega comes out to join them. They chase away FTR, they help up the Young Bucks, and Omega and Hangman Page like fist bump each other, which was cool. We sign a respect there before their match at Full Gear. However, Omega then starts to say something that's quite inaudible to the audience, to Hangman, and he starts to look as if he gets quite annoyed by it. He looks down at the empty glass, he looks at Kenny, he looks at the glass, looks at Kenny again, almost as if he's going to smash it in his face, and then nothing happens, he just sort of walks away. I thought that would have been interesting. I thought it was quite cool to have the fist bump, but then I really wanted to find out what was being said just after the fist bump. Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston come face to face, and I thought this one was absolutely amazing. These two are so intense. Just promos, they weren't allowed to physically touch each other, or the match at Full Gear wasn't happening, so a lot was on the line for both men. As I say, they were both super intense. Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley were squashing faces. You know how close they were getting to each other. Eddie says that when he takes the title from Jon at Full Gear, he's going to take it straight to his mum, and he's going to say, this is why you don't have grandkids, this is why you don't have a daughter-in-law, this is all that matters in our sport, only this title. I had to become everything I hated to get here. And that's kind of like Jesus reminding everybody that Eddie Kingston doesn't really have anything else apart from wrestling. Jon takes the mic off of him, and he says that he made a promise to Eddie's mum that he was always going to look out for him, he was always going to look out for him no matter what trouble he got himself into. And deep down he knows at Full Gear that he's not going to win. He doesn't have it in him to win, and he knows that, which is why he's never been this character before, and he's all of a sudden become this sort of heel character. He's been given a title shot, but deep down he knows he's not ready for the title shot. So I thought during this segment both guys were absolutely phenomenal. Eddie leaves with tears in his eyes, but like angry tears, like proper. I'm going to say it looks as if he's proper going to kill Jon Moxley, but he says as he leaves that if Jon wants to win, he better kill him. So he's not even saying he's going to kill Jon, he's just saying that if Jon wants to win, Jon's going to have to kill him, man. Which I think is always great. Was even someone's that intense, it's fantastic.
But with saying that, you set up so much expectations from the actual thing.
I know. I mean, I think after I seen that promo, I was more excited for the Full Gear match, but at the same time, I couldn't book it, so I wasn't sure how somebody else was going to book it, like a finish. I wasn't sure how you could make that finish work, where neither man says I quit in an I quit match, and I didn't know how they were going to do it. Obviously, now that the pay-per-view is over and done with, we know the outcome, or well, some people might know the outcome, and we'll let other people watch it or read about it or whatever, but they did book a finish, and I suppose they booked a good enough finish for a match like that. Pac is back.
Okay.
The mad bastard, but he's not physically in the arena, or at least we don't see him physically in the arena. He does a video package where he's sat on a couch, watching Dynamite on the TV. It was really weird. So it shows you him sitting watching Dynamite, like, so I imagine the TV is the camera, and you're just watching him watching this TV, so there's lights coming off his face and stuff. It then cuts to him walking through the sort of the nature of Liverpool in England. It then cuts back to the couch, but sitting next to him is Pac the wrestler, who's just wearing the wrestling pants and the arm, the bicep wraps that he wears. then it cuts back to walking through the nature trail, and then it cuts back to the living room where there's now another version of Pac standing in the background shouting at him. So it was like a real insight to this guy being affected by isolation in the UK. It ends with like 7 different versions of Pac all shouting at him. He talks about how isolation has made him stronger, faster, and fucking upset. Upset's probably not the word I would have went with. Doesn't really come across as threatening. Mad, something like that. Like, it's made him crazy. Even more mad, crazy, insane, dangerous. Pharaoh. Pharaoh's a good one. No, he says it upset. And I was like, oh, okay, you had me hooked until you said that. QT Marshall and Dustin Rhodes are backstage having an interview. They are talking about their match with Butcher and Blade next week after Full Gear, so they don't have a match at Full Gear, but it'll be next week. Bunny or Ali approaches QT, and obviously they had like a bit of a on-screen relationship up until Eddie Kingston managed to get her to rejoin with Butcher and Blade as Bunny. So she comes up with a couple of credit cards and says to QT, thanks for buying me all the gifts, but your cards have maxed out. And she just throws them right in his face. And from behind, Butcher and Blade attack. Butcher's got a kendo stick. And I was kind of like, oh fuck, not another one. Sick of seeing kendo sticks in wrestling. You don't see it by much though.
We loved it the first time we saw it, but like,
first time,
it's just so much.
Second time, it was kind of like okay, maybe their supplier of props has currently got an overstock of kendo sticks or whatever. But yep, so we get a kendo stick attack. Blade then takes the both men down, beat them up a wee bit, and then leave. Vicky Guerrero is in AEW, and she's been in AEW for the past few months or something like that. Yeah. She's been in there since Double or Nothing, I think. But because the women's division isn't really getting a lot of attention around it, and it's I don't know who you blame. I don't know if there's MD to blame. I don't know if it's just something that's happening because the talent's maybe not there yet or whatever. But yeah, I'd seen Vicky Guerrero the first time in a while actually interesting me. And it's just her being Vicky Guerrero. That's really all it is. You know, there's a lot of moments in my childhood watching wrestling where Vicky Guerrero was screaming right into the camera, and you can feel it vibrating in your eardrums. Sometimes still to this day. So it was just good seeing Vicky Guerrero again. Now this really made me laugh. We have a Kenny Omega and Hangman Page build-up video. Taz, Tony Schiavone, Excalibur and JR all comment on the Full Gear finals between these two. They're all going through about how they were a great tag team. They're both great individual competitors when they both came into the company, where they were here. They were already at 10. You know, they didn't have to build up to anything. They were already at 10, and now they're at 11, and the finals are going to be amazing, and blah, blah, blah. It then plays some sort of, like, 80s power song, like a power ballad, a love ballad.
Yeah.
As it shows you clips of their tag team work. And then during those tag team clips, you see moments where Hangman's got a drink in his hand, and Kenny will take the drink out of his hand and throw it away or something like that, and he's like, no, you don't need that. And then it shows you the Stadium Stampede where Adam Page took on Jake Hager in a bar, knocked Jake Hager clean out, and then Kenny assisted him and chased him away. They both sat down at the bar. Kenny pulled out 2 glasses, and Hangman lifted up a bottle of whiskey, and then Kenny was like, nah, and then he poured them 2 glasses of milk, and Hangman just emptied his glass and put in whiskey, and then you could see in Kenny's face it was like, right, fine, whatever. So he obviously had a bit of an issue with Adam's drinking, storyline wise anyway, but yeah, it was a very funny tribute to the tag team. I thought it was great. NWA Women's title match has now been announced for the buy-in at Full Gear rather than the original match of Orange Cassidy versus John Silver. And it is Serena Deeb, the NWA Women's Champion, defending against Allysin Kay, who is a big player in the NWA world while it was still on TV. She was the Women's Champion for a while. Then she was in the title scene for most of the show's existence, really. So it was cool seeing her back. I know the result of that match, but I've not seen the match itself. I have, however, heard that it is good. It's unfortunate that AEW are pushing more of the NWA title than they are their own women's title.
I haven't even seen the women's title. I don't know what it looks like.
The AEW one or the NWA one?
AEW.
Very small.
Is it?
It's very small. Like, it looks like something you would buy for a child. Like the plates look like stretched out 2p coins. I'll let you Google it. It's very small. Darby runs a vignette in which he runs over some guy who's wearing a Cody Rhodes mask. There's not really a lot of talking. He just gets in his car, which is half painted as a skull, because it's Darby Allin, and then he runs over some guy who's smoking a cigar dressed up as Cody Rhodes. We close off the show with the night. Well, I've written down here the Nightmare Family, but they're announced as Cody and Austin and Billy Gunn. Yeah, it's very see what I mean. It's quite like stretched out.
That's
quite awkward looking.
That doesn't really suit a
Yeah,
title.
exactly. And when Hikaru Shida wears it around her waist, she has to also hold it in place. I don't know if that's just an issue with the strap or whatever, but it just doesn't look as if it fits a person, but it'll fit. It's like a toy belt basically. The NWA Women's title doesn't look much better. It's just got a white strap, which kind of makes it a bit more standout-ish looking, but it's still stretched plates like that. I don't know what. I honestly don't. I don't know why.
It's like, it's where it's those rare situation where you would take the WWE title over women's title.
Yeah, I'd agree to that. So the Gunn Club and Cody have teamed up. So you've got Austin Gunn and Billy Gunn who team up with Cody Rhodes to take on number 10. They also take on John Silver, and I believe the third person they take on, I'm looking through my notes here, but I don't think I've actually taken a note of the guy's name. Number 10, John Silver, and I think it was Alex Reynolds, I think. Someone will correct me if I am wrong there. The match was quite good. Austin Gunn is very fast, very good worker, lots of good moves. Tags in his dad, Billy Gunn, who is a member of DX, or former member of DX, former member of the what were they called? It was him and Road Dogg, Billy Gunn and Road Dogg. They were called that's going to annoy me now. That's going to annoy me. Anyway, so Billy Gunn, who is well into his 50s, looks really good. He's just a big guy taking on a couple of punks. Basically, they were the New Age Outlaws, Jesse James and Billy Gunn. I've met Billy Gunn in real life.
I think you showed me the photo. Is it the same photo that you had with Robert?
It's just no. So in this picture, it was me, Billy Gunn, and X-Pac.
Yeah.
Who at this point I was going through a phase of constantly quoting X-Pac when obviously X-Pac's got a very distinguished voice, a very distinguished voice, due to a lot of drug use. He would come out and ask the fans to make some noise, but he would scream it at the top of his lungs and it would come out like, "Make some noise!" So I used to quote that, and then I'd actually met him and I was like, oh god, it's... Because, they're both impressive looking guys, they're both wrestlers that you've seen on TV and stuff, it was cool. Billy Gunn did not look as good then as what he did on Dynamite this week. Really big looking guy, muscles were huge, and he's not got that sort of old man body where everything starts to sag down a wee bit. Like, it's still quite
Still up there?
Still quite up there.
Right,
Still quite
okay.
tight, compact. Orange Cassidy comes out to take out John Silvers, who tries to sneak up to get the upper hand for the heels. Orange Cassidy hits him with a Superman punch, but it's like a standing Superman punch. Like, there's no momentum or anything like that. He just sort of jumps and he does the movements of a Superman punch. The faces end up winning. Cody Rhodes grabs a mic and shoots on Darby Allin, who is up in the arena watching down on the TNT scene. He says that not Darby Allin. Cody says that he is the superstar that left an empire, referring to WWE obviously, started a war, referring to the Wednesday Night Wars, and won, which I thought was great, because one of the things you probably shouldn't do with Cody Rhodes is forget about where he's come from, because if it wasn't for WWE and it wasn't for Stardust, there would be no AEW, or there might not be any AEW that we know now.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Stardust and being told, the fans kind of like it. Cody's like, I don't like it. Yeah, but the fans kind of like it, so you're going to do it. And Cody not really having, not feeling like he had much of a choice, ended up just powering through that until he decided, you know what, I really don't have to do this. I can leave and do something for myself. And he did. Started talks with Tony Khan, who is son of a multi-billionaire or something like that. Yeah, Tony Khan's dad owns football teams, NFL football teams, Premier League football teams in England, and Tony must have just asked for a wee bit of extra pocket money and created his own wrestling company. So that was cool. Cody closes the show, and I don't know if it was like this for people watching it live on the TNT network. Obviously that will be our American viewers that would get that. I don't know if the show came back for you guys, but it came back for us watching it on Fight TV, where Cody announced that as of that morning he can now refer to himself as Cody Rhodes after a really long legal battle. That was really cool. Now, I read a little bit into this. Apparently the legal battle had nothing to do with Cody Rhodes, but over the fact that WWE bought a whole load of WCW stuff, and within WCW is the name Rhodes,
Right.
because of Dustin Rhodes and because of Dusty Rhodes. And if you buy the name Rhodes, it messes with Cody without that being your intention. But they managed to sort it out. It can now be called Cody Rhodes, and I've seen a clip from Full Gear where Justin Roberts announces him as Cody Rhodes, and you can see that he's ready to cry tears of joy that he can actually use his name, his brother's name, his dad's name again. Moving on then to SmackDown, just very quickly, as I said, a very small section of notes for SmackDown as always. We got a women's title rematch between Bayley and Sasha Banks. They go 1-on-1. Not interested at all, I'll be honest. It was absolute mince. I thought it was a really bad match. Banks retains, and on the way up the entrance ramp, Carmella super kicks her, and now Carmella's in the title scene. Honestly, there's been nothing to lead up to this. It's just fucking happening, whether we like it or not. Rollins takes on Otis to see who joins the... Oh, just noticed my notes there. Instead of writing Survivor Series team, I've just put SS team. Probably shouldn't refer to that as SS. So Rollins takes on Otis to see who joins the Survivor Series team. Murphy joins at ringside, and in the closing moments of the match jumps on the apron to distract Otis just long enough for Rollins to pick up the victory. And all this while all this is happening, the Mysterios are watching the match, and they're watching obviously Buddy Murphy's actions. Aaliyah Aaliyah Mysterio looked as if she was dressed to like a fucking red carpet event, and it was just SmackDown. Like, fucking calm down, hen, man. A pair of jeans will do. Jey Uso takes on Kevin Owens after some build up during the rest of the night. Kevin Owens takes the lead in most of the match, but Heyman makes his presence known at ringside. And then when Roman's music hits just long enough, Jey Uso is able to pick up the win over Kevin Owens. He walks up to the entrance ramp where he is met by Reigns, who raises the title over his head. There we go, that was SmackDown. As I say, unless it gets better, that's as short, or sorry, that might be as long as the reviews are going to get for SmackDown, unless the show gets any better.
Well, what I'm seeing right now in like Insta and stuff is someone saying, since Reigns returned, there literally hasn't been a bad SmackDown. Someone said it was an A+.
Are you sure? Have they spelt haven't been bad as in haven't been good, or have they actually spelled?
There hasn't been a bad one since Reigns has returned.
I can't. I like heel Reigns just now. Don't get me wrong. I thought, especially after Hell in a Cell, I think heel Reigns is great. He doesn't make SmackDown a good show though.
No.
Like,
Carmella makes everything better.
fuck off. Who are these? These are the people that were saying that Dominic was the next John Cena?
Right, I'll go on. Seth Rollins fan is what he's called. That's a flag I don't recognise. He was in SmackDown Thunderdome and Raw Thunderdome, and he posts a lot of Seth Rollins stuff. Big E better be the captain of Team SmackDown. This man knows what's
Okay,
up.
no, okay. Yep, he's got me there.
Let me see what this. Oh, he's a Scottish guy that said that there hasn't been a bad SmackDown.
Why does that make me feel dirty?
Well, yeah, that's just the public. Well,
That's
very small.
That's a very small public opinion, but okay.
It's just funny to make fun of.
Congo's in complete agreement with us. He says that Reigns' story has been good. Pretty much everything else has been utter tripe, which I think is a great way to describe it. Utter tripe. So, moving on then to Power Struggle NJPW. Just very quickly, because obviously we don't review the show, our fans who don't watch it won't know much of what I'm talking about, but the IWGP Heavyweight title was Naito versus Evil. Naito
Evil.
being the champion. Oh, we love Evil here. We like that. Just the fact that there's a heel called Evil is just something tremendous all on its own.
Story as well.
Yeah.
He was left behind by his tag team partner who was gaining great success, and then he's just been on a tear, and he turned on his friend and joined the Bullet Club, and it's just great.
And he used to walk out dressed as Death, which absolutely nothing wrong with that. But anyway, Naito manages to retain the title in a really good match. Not in the runnings for number 1 of the year, but a really good match nonetheless. The G1 Climax, we discussed Kota Ibushi winning the G1 Climax this year, maybe 2-3 weeks ago or something. We were discussing that on the episodes. So the G1 Climax is much like Money in the Bank. You win it, you get a contract title shot at whatever time of your choosing. However, the G1 Climax title shot was won from Kota Ibushi to a guy called Jay White, who after Kenny Omega left has basically skyrocketed to the number 1 gaijin in the company in NJPW. And they did it in a much better fashion than Otis beating the Miz for the Money in the Bank contract.
I hope so.
They never included JBL in the court hearings or anything like that. So there we go. Now after we had discussed Full Gear. Spoiler alert, if anyone wants to tune out now.
Do you want me to change the Full Gear poster right now?
Change it to the Full Gear poster. Now, as I say, I know the results, but Luke watched the show. Do you want to cover this? Or do you want both of us to see it first?
You see it first.
Right, okay, so there, I suppose.
I'll give an overall.
You give an overview, yeah.
The matches that I watched were all good. I enjoyed watching them all. Most in part because the audience was there and they were giving their reactions and all that.
1,000 people, I heard.
Yeah, I think so. But it was just great wrestling. There was like a couple slow points, but that's because I just generally like there being a lot more of eventful stuff going on, or like a lot more of a flow, fast pace to it. But yeah, it was good, surprising, and just overall enjoyable. I would give it a not a must watch, but like watch it because it's new.
Do you agree with some of the nominations for number one match of the year, like the Young Bucks versus FTR or Page versus Omega?
I didn't watch that one because I didn't have the time, but I watched all the singles.
Yeah. So
but
Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page. Would you put that in the runnings for match of the year?
I did watch it, but it was like a highlight video where I'd skip.
Right. Okay.
But
That's fine.
I did watch the full MJF versus Jericho and all that. I don't know. It was definitely good. It did seem a bit finisher heavy at some point, and they just like kept on doing these big strong moves.
Yeah.
But I still enjoyed it.
I quite like the build up to it. They done something called Full Gear Countdown, which was basically building up all of the feuds in the show. And it mentioned in one of the interviews with, I believe it was JR, said that Kenny Omega knows all of Hangman's moves and he knows how to reverse them. But the same goes for Hangman. He knows all of Omega's moves and he knows how to reverse them. That really interested me to see, because they're not that's not even false finishes. That's not even being able to hit your finisher because the person you're up against used to be your best friend.
Yeah.
Knows all of your moves. Like, I think that would have been really good storytelling. So we'll watch it. We'll try and watch it in full. We'll try and watch the whole thing as much as we can, as best we can. And we'll maybe include a little thing on next week's episode then. Just a little sort of brief coverage. But I would say... yeah, as Luke said, all the matches were good, and worth a watch.
Yeah,
worth a watch at least. Congo in the chat box. I thought Kenny versus Page was good, but not outstanding. Commentators played quite heavily on that move thing, which did add to it. Tag match maybe a contender though, and I'm assuming contender for number one. So I would much appreciate watching the number one contender match as well. Sorry, not number one contender match, the tag team match as well. I'm interested in that. Everyone should watch Full Gear. Great show from start to finish. As normal women's matches go, was a bit of a low point, but still decent nonetheless. And liked the cinematic match.
Yeah, Jeff versus Sammy was a cinematic match.
Oh right, okay, I didn't know that.
It's hard to. There was a surprise.
Was the surprise perhaps a robot-like flying device?
I didn't watch it.
Oh right, okay.
Because I started watching the cinematic match.
Yeah.
And I kept on skipping through it because
right.
I just didn't like. I don't know what I didn't like it because it was so like. They went to a ring and they kept on dismantling the ring and Jeff was being covered in the ropes of the ring and I thought that was cool, but there was a lot of it that was just very played for laughs.
Right,
and all
okay,
that, and I didn't really enjoy it. It wasn't really like the John Cena one, but
was it better than the Boner Yard match?
Yeah, maybe I don't know. But who's that? I know who he is. He's the wrestler that acts like a superhero.
Hurricane Helms.
Hurricane, yeah. He came back.
There's a storm coming.
Yeah, he remember like where he tried to do a choke slam.
Yeah,
but, he'd done that and all that.
Oh, cool.
So he came back and done a wee bit, but I just kept on skipping through it.
I'm quite happy to hear that for some reason.
Yeah, he's a bit chubby. Well,
yeah, I think he sort of let himself go a wee bit, but he doesn't really wrestle anymore. But that's pretty cool that he was there. So we've discussed the Undertaker's best moments, so instead of a recommend a match this week, I'm going to actually recommend an Undertaker match, because this was what I voted to be my favourite Undertaker moment. is The Undertaker versus The Rock versus Kurt Angle at Vengeance 2002 for the Undisputed Championship. Classic triple threat match, not really going out the box, staying quite in the boundaries for a triple threat match. The three men were arguably at the peak of their careers, delivered a memorable brawl that encompassed all the good stuff about that era. Big names, wild brawls, exciting spots and thrilling finishes, with The Undertaker just too late to break up the pin, costing him the world title. I believe I've done this before with Jericho Appreciation Night. I believe I chose a Jericho match that I really liked that he lost, and it was supposed to be appreciating him. Mm. But I still believe that
you're appreciating the wrestler.
Yeah, I'm appreciating Undertaker in this match. The finish, besides the point. Who do you think won this show, Luke? Won this week? Winning show for this week? Struggled to get that in a sentence there. You like Awa? I like Awa.
Awa always works because it's going to have an audience. Yeah. And the Thunderdome isn't an audience because you can't interact with them. Yeah, well, I'm not saying you should interact with them in these times, but there's a lot more of an engagement with the audience there.
It definitely feels as if they're more welcome.
Yeah.
The Thunderdome has... I have recently spoken to some people who have attended the Thunderdome, and it's very scripted.
Yes.
So they will actually say who's coming on next and whether or not you should cheer or boo. Clearly they're just recording that audio for later on use. Also, there was a guy called John who is from Glasgow. He went and signed himself up for SmackDown, went to the bathroom, and due to inactivity was kicked and not allowed back in. Which was quite annoying. Now, we haven't went through the whole registering process for the Thunderdome. I don't think we're going to. It doesn't bother me at all, being in that position. And I believe it was Congosaurus that mentioned last week that they only have the Thunderdome until the end of November, unless they can get an extension or find an arena that will handle that.
I just hope they don't have it because it's just...
I think as well, yeah, just let it end. So the W Factor champion then, look, Eddie Kingston won last week. Now I will allow you to nominate people who had good matches at Full Gear. Despite not seeing it, I will take your word that they were good matches and that they were in deserving positions of our championship.
Let's not do Full Gear because you haven't seen it.
Okay, right. Okay, if you don't want to do it, that's fine.
We can do Full Gear next time.
Right, okay. Right. We'll include Full Gear next time.
Who do I want?
I've only got Dynamite nominations really. I've just went through my notes again. There's nobody from Raw. There's nobody from Impact.
I was trying to think of someone from Raw or anything like that, but no.
Sometimes I kind of feel as if we are a bit biased, but then I think to myself, no, we're not biased.
It's the better show.
Yeah.
It is objectively the better show as of the moment. Does Impact even have an audience?
Impact still doesn't have an audience, which is why the Rich Swann headbang into the steel steps was so loud because there was nobody to cheer or boo. So, nominations then. I would go nominations this week. I would say
Moxley.
I would go Moxley.
Yeah.
And it's sheerly promo based. I would go Moxley or MJF or Cody Rhodes. Now Cody Rhodes disappointed us by going blonde again and his character completely going back to face, which annoyed us and disappointed us.
I don't mind him being a face, it's just he just doesn't look great.
I don't mind him being a face, but don't go heel for 1 week. And then
he didn't even go heel for 1 week, he just had a different personality that was still face, I would say. Because he was still feuding with Thingy. He was not a heel, he just looked way better. Like, he looked like a Loomis, because Loomis, like, he just looks cool, and that's what Cody was like, even though Loomis can pull off the blonde hair.
Yeah. Right, okay then. So, you say Moxley?
I would say Moxley.
I'll give it to Moxley. I like Moxley.
Congo says Moxley, is it? So.
Congo does say Moxley, there we go. So other news in wrestling, on Tuesday the 11th of November, AEW will introduce their new games project. Obviously there was already talks of a video game coming out for AEW, so there we go, that'll be a bit more information there. Alberto Del Rio, also known as Alberto El Patron, will face prison time for assaulting women,
Oh no.
but claims that it was actually Paige that was beating him up during their brief relationship and engagement. However, ain't nobody buying that shit, I'm sorry. Cedric Alexander appeared backstage at Full Gear, and that's getting a lot more social media attention than I believe it's due. He's there to support his wife. She never had a match, but she was there because it's her company. It's her, it's her company's pay-per-view. She wants to be basically in the front row, and he was there to support her, and he's getting a lot of social media attention for even being there. Vince doesn't care. Vince still thinks that his company is on top. Vince does not care if his superstars go and visit another company. To such an extent where at Double or Nothing 2020, they invited a lot of WWE wrestlers to come and watch it because, your top names in AEW are former WWE competitors. Mm-hmm. So they were like, listen, we're still friends, we still talk, do you want to come down and watch a free pay-per-view? And a lot of them said yes. And this was Double or Nothing, which was in May. Right, and in order to enter the arena to watch Double or Nothing live, they had to go through a COVID test.
Yeah.
And it was revealed that that was their first COVID test. WWE had not introduced COVID testing at that point. I'm not the First Lady of Scotland. I'm not Nicola Sturgeon. I'm not going to say that that's disgraceful. I just think it's a little bit unsafe.
Yeah, definitely.
I think if one person's doing COVID testing at wrestling shows, all wrestling shows should be doing COVID testing. However, WWE apparently hadn't introduced it yet. There we go. Any other news?
Have you seen Brock Lesnar?
I've seen the beard,
Yeah.
the trucker beard. Yeah, I've seen the trucker beard. Weird.
I want to see him with that.
I'd like to see him come back with that. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
But yeah, I've got nothing else.
Yeah, nothing else. So Congo, just to close off the show, to be fair, Vince did once get rid of one of the Highlanders for going to TNA show, but he was daft enough to actually be in the crowd. That's a good point. Yeah, who was in a show? Britt Baker appeared at an NXT show, and the camera zoomed in on her, and she had to cover her face, and Triple H had to apologise. And I don't know, man. It's a wee bit strange. It's a wee bit strange to be that extreme about it. But anyway, you can get us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch and YouTube. I believe all of our library is now on YouTube for you to view at your viewing pleasure. Remember to leave a like, a comment, share the page, share the links, share the videos, whatever you want to do. It all helps out the algorithm in the long run. Thank you very much, and we will see you next week.
Bye bye.